Good evening, I'm Lori Tucker. President Obama proposing some big changes today that would change the way workers get overtime. If he has his way, an estimated 5 million more salaried workers could become eligible for overtime. And if it goes through, the increase would only be the second one since 1975. So here to talk more about this is attorney Jesse Nelson. Good to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, first of all, break it down for us. What exactly would this proposal mean?
Well, initially, this is just a proposal that the Department of Labor has made to raise the salary level for exempt workers. And so at this initial onset, they're saying the current salary level is $455 per week. That's the minimum that you have to make on a salary basis to not be entitled to receive overtime under the regs. This new proposal raises that to $970, which basically means if you're not making that, then perhaps you could be entitled to overtime even if you're a salaried worker.
Okay, so that's who's most impacted by this and watching this very closely. Let's talk about the current law and how this changes that.
Right. The current law is that $455 is the minimum. And so if you have that minimum and you meet some other job duties, and it's designed for what we call white collar workers, the white collar exemption. That's what these regs pertain to. And so the current law is if you are a management level employee and you earn at least $455 a week, then you can be exempt, which means you're not going to receive overtime.
Right.
But with this new reg, then that raises to that $970, and there's a lot of people who now do not receive overtime and are not eligible to receive overtime.
But are working those hours.
Working those hours, and that's going to change.
Okay, this, as you said, this is a Department of Labor thing. Congress has nothing to do with this. So do you think this is a realistic thing?
Yes.
And it could happen?
It will happen.
It will happen.
Yes.
Now, do businesses have to comply with this? This is expensive.
It's going to be very expensive, and yes, ultimately businesses will have to comply. Now, for business owners, there's no need to panic just yet. At this point, the Department of Labor is just putting out their regulations. They do not have the force of law yet. There is now once they're formally released, which actually that will probably happen later this week, it will begin a comment period to where businesses and employee groups and any number of people will be able to write to the Department of Labor and give their comments. It is possible that the department can tweak those a little bit before they actually have the force of law, but in all likelihood, they will pass almost exactly as written now.
But we have minimum wage, and a lot of businesses still don't comply with that.
Especially when people are on a salary, because if someone is making just sort of that minimum threshold and they're working, for instance, 60 hours a week, if you do the math, 60 hours a week divided by a very low salary may be an hourly rate of $4 an hour, for instance. And so, yes, a lot of businesses do not comply. This is going to be very problematic to businesses who do not take a serious look at their pay structure, their payroll practices. It's going to be a big deal.
All right, like we said, a lot of people watching this. I hope you'll come back and talk with us about it as it takes effect.
I would love to. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much for explaining all that for us.